What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad Sean, and today on Reactions to the Classics, we are up to the Doors' third album, Waiting for the Sun. We reviewed their first two records and our quest of going through their discography. If this is your first time joining us, we thank you for stopping by here at Reactions to the Classics. We take a look back at some of the most classic albums of all time, do a detailed track-by-track review of them, and just like today, it's usually the first time we've heard the record. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And if you'd like to link up with us more, we have our Facebook and Patreon links down below. All that to say, let's just dive into this.
Yeah, this was the third studio album, released July 3rd of 1968. It was recorded between February and May of 68 at TTG Studios in LA. It was their first #1 album, had their second #1 song, and it also was their first hit album in the UK, reaching number 16. Now, Trey, the recording of this thing was difficult, partly because of their producer, Paul A. Rothchild. He wanted multiple takes. He was a perfectionist. As a matter of fact, they say that every song on here took at least 20 takes, and The Unknown Soldier was recorded in two different recording sessions, and it took over 130 takes. Also, the drummer, John Densmore, got so fed up with Morrison's behavior that he actually walked out of one of the sessions. And they had also used up most of Jim Morrison's original songbook, which is a collection of lyrics, ideas, poems. They used those up in the first two albums.
After months of touring, interviews, TV appearances, they had little new material. And so to compensate for that, the band attempted to record a longer piece called The Celebration of the Lizard, which was a collection of song fragments held together by Morrison's surreal poetry. And when they failed to make progress, Rothchild abandoned the recording.
That takes us to our first song, Hello, I Love You.
Yeah, this reached #1 in the US as a single, number 15 in the UK, one of the tracks that really helped grow their popularity in the UK. It was also one of 6 songs that was recorded by a proto-Doors band, Rick and the Ravens, that they shopped around all the way back in '65 in LA.
Yeah, and at the time this was released, it was promoted as the first stereo 45 by a big band, at least. This was the song in particular where Densmore threatened to quit the band. Instead, to kind of calm Jim down because he had writer's block because he was drinking so much, they tried to look through a bunch of his old books of poetry and different things to try to pull some of these songs. This song works for me. I actually knew this song barely, but I didn't know it. I didn't think I knew any of these songs, but once I heard it, it has a familiar sound to it, and I thought it was a great way to start the album.
Me too. The passion grew from the track as we continue to go on. It had a fuzzy type vibe to it. Kind of fit the passion of the song where he's allured to this girl.
Yeah, he just sees her walking by and all of a sudden he loves her.
Yeah, and then the theme of love continues to song 2 with Love Street.
This is originally a poem written by Morrison about the street in front of his apartment that him and Pamela Corson shared in the Laurel Canyon area of Los Angeles. Their street was Rothdale Trail, which is referred to as, quote, Love Street, because they would sit on their balcony and watch hippies walk by who Jim was really not a fan of. Song is noted for his spoken narration right in the middle of it. He says, I see you live on Love Street. There's this store where the creatures meet. I wonder what they do in there.
Yeah, and that store is actually the Canyon County store that was right across the street from them.
Sitting out there watching them.
I love the instrumentation on this. I think Manzarek and Krieger were able to play off each other very well with their solos, great bass line, and it did just kind of make me think of summer. And I don't know, maybe it's because there's a track here that has summer in the title later on, but it had a cool vibe.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it a lot. It took a little bit for it to grow on me, but coming out of Hello, I Love You, which is a great song, this is kind of a nice segue, and that takes us right to
Not to Touch the Earth. This was part of that extended performance I talked about earlier, Celebration of the Lizard. They did a 17-minute studio recording of the complete piece, but decided that it wasn't fit for the album, and so they just kept the part that noted Not to Touch the Earth.
The song begins, Not to Touch the Earth, Not to See the Sun. These are sub-chapters of the 60th chapter of The Golden Bow by James Frazier. These sub-chapters detail taboos against certain people, walking upon the ground or having the sun shine directly upon them. And at the conclusion, Morrison utters his iconic personal maxim, I am the Lizard King. I can do anything. It's the very last thing in the song. This song for me, it's okay. I'm glad they didn't go with the whole second side with this whole thing. As you see, it's kind of a complicated deal that they were trying to do because they didn't have enough material for this album, Trey, which a lot of people don't like this album as much as the other two. because they were trying to search for things. I happen to think it's fine. We'll get to that later. But this would not have worked for me if it was the entire side, too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was not as good, though, as those first two tracks. I think it could have fit right into like a horror movie, I think, because
that's a good point.
The organ especially just kind of had that almost Addams Family type vibe to it. I thought you have Morrison saying something that builds some suspense. The mansion is warm at the top of the hill. Rich are the rooms and the comforts there. Red are the arms of the luxuriant chairs, and you won't know a thing till you get inside. So he kind of builds some suspense through his lyrics there that I thought was pretty good. But I'm with you, just a little short of those first two tracks for me. Then we go into a shorter track.
Summer's Almost Gone. And it's basically telling you that summer's almost gone, Trey. Now, what does summer represent? We don't know. It could have been the good things in his life, summer, winter, dark, light. I don't know. It works fine for me. It's nothing great. It's not horrible. It just kind of blends in.
Yeah, I think this is better taken as like a 2-song like compilation with the next track, because he even mentions like winter is coming, and it just segues nice into the next track, Wintertime Love. He's fantasizing about being with a girl who can be his, quote, wintertime love. Some great imagery there that was brought throughout, and I just kind of think that the dichotomy between summer, good times are going, and then we get into the winter. I thought it was a pretty musical backing.
And that takes us to The Unknown Soldier, which is the first single off this album. It's their 4th top 40 hit overall for the Doors. Although a lot of radio stations refused to play it because it was Jim's reaction to the Vietnam War and the way the media portrayed it. Lines such as breakfast where the news is read, television children fed, unborn living, living dead, bullets strike the helmet's head, concerned the way news of the war was being presented in the living rooms of ordinary people. Trey, the media and these things do paint the narrative of conflicts, of things that we aren't able to be there at. I will give Jim huge credit that he took this on during this time, because obviously, like I said, some radio stations would not play it. Kudos to him for taking it.
Yeah, the Doors never really shied away from controversy, and this was one of my favorite tracks on the record. It also has a secondary message, kind of Americans just go on about their day with being normalized and kind of desensitized to the war, about the soldiers being shot in the head while they're just chilling at home and eating breakfast, watching TV.
Yeah, which is very similar to 2019. We have all these mass shootings, and we're like,
yeah, exactly.
Nothing's changed, unfortunately.
You just become kind of numb to it. You don't intentionally do so, but you just kind of forget about the faces behind the war or behind certain atrocities, because just frequency, I think, just ends up numbing your, I don't know if compassion's the right word, but you just kind of forget and just go on with your everyday life.
Yeah, and I like this song in the middle of it, it kind of changes up, and we have soldiers marching.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool touch.
All these different things. I mean, this song's really a journey. You got to listen to it a few times to really see all the little nuances in it. But for me, it might have been the standout track. I don't know if it's a song I'd listen to over and over again like some of these other ones, but just for the content and the way they structured it, it is top flight. Next up is Spanish Caravan. Now, Robbie Krieger actually wrote this, and he plays a nice flamenco guitar on this. Part of it was played through a fuzz box.
Yeah, and this was again showing some interesting different styles.
Yeah, quite different.
I really thought this was one of Krieger's best performances I've heard him do thus far. We mentioned on Strange Days how we liked it. He had a more prominent role, and this record he also had some spots to shine, and this was one of them. Again, some great imagery here. There was another track on here that Krieger also wrote.
Yeah.
He has some good lyrical chops himself.
Yeah, he does.
We continue this fantastic B-side with My Wild Love. This has a Wild West type feel to me. It
does.
I don't know. Let us know if you kind of have
I like that. Yeah.
the same feel to it, because there's a bunch of stomping, clapping.
They're having a good time, but
yeah, it's kind of speculated that Morrison wrote this about his girlfriend's heroin use. She goes to the devil to get her money back, essentially, but instead the devil asks her to pay. So I thought that was a unique little twist there early on in the song, and you have like some humming, like a humming choir in the background.
There's a lot going on. Like they had a good time in the studio. Obviously, if that's what this song is about, The content of it's not a good time, but the song itself was a good time. Next up is We Could Be So Good Together. Many speculate it's Jim talking to the audience themselves, telling them what kind of world we could live in if they just simply tried to be better people, tried to be nicer to each other, tried to be more peaceful.
Yeah, I thought this was the weakest track on the B-side personally, but we still had some good moments, a nice short Krieger guitar solo in here, some, in-your-face lyrics talking about angels fight, angels cry, angels dance, angels die, just how in this world we go out and violence abounds, this and that, but hey, we could still be so good together if we got our head on straight.
Yeah, I thought once again tackling a difficult subject, and he didn't back away from it.
Yes, The River Knows is our next track. Another heavy topic about a guy contemplating, meditating on suicide. Something's holding him back, though. Talks about wanting to go under the water, where we kind of get the river motif in here. This was actually written by Krieger,
not Morrison. And like when Jim died, some people pointed back at this song saying, look, he was professing this in the third album, but not true. Krieger came out and said, hey, look, I wrote this song.
Yeah, exactly.
But heavy lyrics for sure. It's a haunting song. I like it.
Yeah, I do too, and it's interesting. I always like when songs have some like heavy lyrics, but the backing is more chilled out.
Yeah, very much.
It didn't really fit the lyrics, so you kind of get a nice contrast there. And then we finish off with 5 to 1. The Doors definitely know how to finish their records off.
Boy, they sure do.
And the song's most famous performance was in 1969 in Miami. Towards the end, Morrison was drunk, kept calling the audience idiots, slaves, and he would be accused of trying to incite a riot.
And cited for indecent exposure because they said he exposed himself. He claims that he didn't. This became a very famous incident. And basically the song is about the young will overcome the old eventually. If these people are in power or have money or whatever, you just wait it out because eventually they're either going to lose that money, become so feeble they can't use it, or they're going to die and the young will rise up and take over.
Yeah, I thought it just had a revolution, revolting type of a vibe to it. It was punk rock before punk rock was on the scene, I thought, and there was just an ominous line in here. No one here gets out alive. It just kind of propelled the track, and then we get him whispering towards the end before just exploding just musically and with his screams yet again. So I thought this was the perfect way to end the record, and my personal favorite track, which segues us perfectly into our favorite tracks. For me, it's going to be 5 to 1. It's going to be The Unknown Soldier, and I also enjoyed the opener.
Well, you just took my 3. That's what I had too. We never talked about this beforehand. Overall great. This is the third one we've done. We're going in order with the Doors. I'll start. I usually throw it to you and put you on the spot. Here's the thing. When we started listening to the Doors, I didn't really care for the Doors. I never listened to them a lot. I knew a couple of the hit songs. The first album for me, I know it's widely acclaimed. It was okay for me. They've grown on me. I guess when you go through somebody's discography, that's going to happen. I'll give this a 7.5, and it's a solid 7.5. I mean, I enjoyed it. I've listened to it several times and actually starting to become a fan of the Doors.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to echo a lot of your thoughts. Strange Days I actually liked more.
I did too.
Than the opener, and I thought they continued the hit streak on this record as well. I'm gonna go an 8.25. I really enjoyed this one. Again, it was only 11 tracks, which I think helps it.
32 minutes, yeah, very nice.
Even if there's a song you're not crazy about, it's usually only 2.5 minutes.
Exactly.
There was a lot of quality just sprinkled throughout here, and I'm curious to continue to go through their discography. I know we got the Soft Parade next. Let us know what you think of Waiting for the Sun down in the comments below. Your favorite track. Dad, appreciate the research.
Enjoy it.
And if you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload multiple times a week in a variety of genres. And until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, my friends, and we will see you next time.